Hello, my fellow weirdlings. It's Margot. With the holiday season upon us, I thought it would be apropos to talk about some haunted toys, just in time for a lot of you to invite new ones into your homes, or to think better of it. So if you're ready to get spooked and spine tingled, keep watching. Paranormal activity is often associated with toys, most often creepy, supposedly possessed dolls, but other toys can be possessed or haunted as well. When a child or even an adult loves a toy so much that they'd never want to be without it, perhaps when that person dies, they can stay attached to their favorite possession. Or maybe just some of that person's energy residually remains attached to the toy. Maybe this happens to some extent with all objects. And when you bring a toy that's already absorbed such strong emotional energy into a location that's already haunted, perhaps it draws this new energy toward it, causing the existing ghosts or spirits to use the toy as a conduit for the manifestation of paranormal activity or a poltergeist. The energy stored within these toys may even be attracted to only a certain type of energy or presence, or only a certain type of entity may be attracted to them, resulting in a haunted object going dormant for years, then suddenly becoming activated. There are sometimes even toys that appear to be haunted fresh from the factory, a la Chucky, or my crawling baby doll from the 80s that was seemingly undeterred from crawling and making disturbing noises even when she lacked batteries. Haunted dolls are currently very trendy on TikTok, Instagram, pretty much anywhere you can find people who want to see something spooky. They can also be found for sale on eBay, Etsy, Facebook Marketplace, and many other sales sites. I assure you not all of those dolls are actually haunted. In fact, I'd go out on a limb and say most of them aren't, at least not in a way that you'd ever notice. But still, there are lots of famous or infamous toys that strike fear into the hearts of the general public. I'll tell you about two of them today. We'll start off with a pretty well-known case, a purportedly haunted doll named Harold, which was actually the first haunted doll to be sold on eBay. Harold is a baby doll that's certainly seen better days, made of composite particles, plaster, and water. It was manufactured around the year 1900. The identity of the manufacturer is unknown. In 2003, a listing appeared on eBay reading, "I'm sure it's happened to us at least once or twice. You're walking around a flea market or antique mall looking for a treasure or two, and you come upon a beat-up looking doll. You think to yourself, oh, that's charming, or the child who owned this doll must have really loved this thing. But what I thought after seeing the doll that is offered today should never ever be repeated." This doll was purchased in a small dirt lot flea market in the quaint town of Webster, Florida. Webster is a very charming industrial town, about 60 miles southwest of Gainesville. They have a weekly flea market offering treasures, bargains, and aisles of kettle corn. Anyways, I digress. I'd arrived at the flea market fairly late in the day, when most people were packing up to go home. That's when I saw an elderly man placing a doll in a box. It looked interesting, so I asked the man if I could see it. The conversation went something like this. "Man, you don't want to see this doll." Me, "Sure I do. What do you want for it?" Man, "Well, this is a good question because it's very old." The man looked like he was going to begin to cry. "It was my son's. I bought it for him when he was born, and he passed away a few years after. This doll has sat in my work shed for over 60 years. I wasn't going to bring it out today, but I figured I just needed to get it out of there. Anyways, I want $20 for it." I gave the guy $20, put it in a bag, and walked away. When I was halfway down the aisle, the man came running over, out of breath. He said, "I have to warn you about something. I can't let you take him like this. The reason it's been in my shed is that the doll brought an eerie presence into our house after our son died. We'd hear crying and singing from his bedroom. When we went to check it out, there was nothing, just the doll. Other things started to happen, and the priest told me I should burn the doll. I tried and tried, but it would barely burn. That's why his arms and legs are so worn. Anyways, I just wanted to let you know." I told him, "Okay," and chuckled to myself as I walked away. That was until I got home, and my life has never been the same. 2 days later, my cat died, and my girlfriend left me for the pool guy. I began to have chronic migraines, and this is only 2 days after purchasing the doll. A week later, I began to hear children laughing and crying in the basement. Every time I'd go check it out, of course, nothing. This doll has been in an armadillo coffin in my basement for the last 1.5 years, and I need to get rid of it. I really do believe it's cursed. Sometimes I touch it and it seems like it has a pulse. Maybe I'm just paranoid. Maybe not. The cursed doll measures 21 inches tall. His, her, its head, arms, and legs are all composition. The eyes are closed when it's lying down. Please ask any and all questions before you bid on this doll. I haven't had it out of the coffin for years, so if anything else happens this week, I'll be sure to let you know. This auction is sold as is, with no returns, please. Winner pays exact shipping and optional insurance. Check out my other auctions for more vintage collectibles and antiques. Ask all questions before you bid. Even if you think you're sure about condition, pictures, etc., please ask all specific questions before bidding. Thanks for looking and good luck. The auction had over 100,000 views. The winning bid was for $700, but the bidder didn't pay. This part is pretty murky, but the lore states that the second highest bidder paid $300 for the doll, but they quickly sold it. The doll was passed from owner to owner without many holding on to it for long. Many of those people claim to have been tormented by the doll, hearing childish laughter or singing, being bitten or scratched, or experiencing a string of bad luck. They also reported being plagued by headaches, migraines, and back pain while in the presence of Harold the doll. The doll would also appear to move slightly from time to time and change facial expressions. In fact, it got the name Harold from Greg, the man who originally listed it on eBay, when it appeared to move on video in response to hearing the word here, or Harold. It seems the doll somehow ended up back in the hands of the original eBay seller, Greg. Greg reportedly admitted to friends that his eBay listing was a hoax. One of those friends was named Kathy. Kathy agreed to take the doll, presumably to play a hoax or prank of her own, but things didn't go the way she had anticipated. The Harold the Haunted Doll Facebook page shared this account of what happened with Kathy in her own words, which seemed to contradict the popular story of the doll being sold repeatedly after terrorizing a string of new owners. I believe that Facebook page is run by Anthony Kenyatta, the current owner of the doll. If you find this story interesting, it's a good resource to learn more. Kathy says, I was the second owner of this doll. I sold it to Anthony Kenyatta in 2004. He has had it ever since. The first time it sold, the winner didn't pay for it. The reserve I put on it was what I paid for it. I knew the person who originally sold it, and I knew it was a hoax. However, strange things began happening as soon as I got it, when I picked it up in Manhattan on my way to a family wedding. In a nutshell, my aunt's wedding was ruined due to health and other issues, such as bad food, and we were put in the smaller of 2 reception rooms and were packed in there like sardines. My fiancé at the time and I were supposed to go with them on a cruise after their wedding. They couldn't go, so we did. I brought the doll on the ship as we were going through the Bermuda Triangle and wanted to see if anything happened. Nothing physically wrong happened to me. However, I saw my luggage go up the gangplank, and that's the last I saw of it until 10 minutes before leaving the ship. Instead of flying back with it to Dublin, I mailed the doll and was going to have it restored. I was having a dinner party one night, and my fiancé's boss's wife wanted to see it, as she collected antiques. She told me the approximate age of the doll and how it was made of composition material. The next day they went to Amsterdam, and she fell down the stairs breaking her neck and was killed instantly. Their roommate Stephen, who had just got a clean bill of health, as well as being extremely physically active, moved in with us, because his boss moved back to South Africa after his wife's death. All of a sudden he had problems speaking. The doll was kept in his closet. He went to a specialist to find out he had stage 4 cancer of the larynx. He was not a smoker. He moved back to Wales and died in hospice care there within 3 months of moving into our home. Ireland in general doesn't have many bugs or creepy crawly spiders, and they seem to all be gathered at my house. I was told to get that doll out of the house, so I put it in storage at the complex. It was in storage for a while. One day I was going through our allotment of storage and decided to relist the doll on eBay and included the other listing as well. In fact, the second time I listed it, the Dybbuk box was also for sale. I described everything I'd gone through with that doll and listed it as being cursed and not haunted. I'd only accept bids from people who were involved in the paranormal and who knew how to use it, because at that time I wasn't as seasoned in this field, nor did my psychic abilities emerge at this point. Long story short, Anthony won the doll and I mailed it to him from Dublin. About 5 or so, maybe more years after I moved back to the States, I decided to find Anthony and give him a call. Seems he had the doll in storage and had taken it out the very day I called him. Whatever happened after Anthony had taken possession of that doll is his account of his life and what he did with it. You're probably wondering why I'm admitting to knowing the doll was a hoax. The person I bought it from was a family friend going to art college, and we were doing well, so we helped him out. He basically made up a fantastic story to sell a $10 item. I bid on the doll and I was going to restore the doll with some help, and obviously that never happened. So again, why should you believe what I have to say about the doll? Because I knew it was faked. First of all, I'm now a semi-professional investigator. That means I don't get paid for investigations, and I charge a very nominal fee for readings, and have investigated throughout Europe. Instead of just a family friend, Lorraine Warren was now one of my mentors, especially since the day I had my psychic awakening. Lorraine, as did Art Bell, had always drummed the concept of the law of attraction into our heads. Basically, my experience and Anthony's might differ. Either there was something lying dormant in the doll, and because it was given so much attention, it allowed whatever dormant to be released and become active. My other theory is that, again, since the doll in this story attracted the demonic or trapped souls to attach itself to the doll. In fact, my friendship with Anthony had even turned sour. We, especially me, were acting very ugly to one another, a quality I don't normally have. Glad to say that's all in the past now. I hope this post clears what transpired with this object whilst I owned it, and the provenance of this item. The post is signed, "So long, Kathy Krusht." For what it's worth, a woman named Chris commented on this post, saying she's Kathy's sister, and, well, here's a quote. "I'm Kathy's sister, and she herself is a hoax. You can't believe a word she says. There was no aunt getting married in 2004. Lorraine Warren, a mentor? Kathy never met her. This is the kind of person Kathy is. She's my older sister, and I'm telling you all, if her lips are moving or her fingers are typing, she's lying." In subsequent comments, she goes on to say that basically every sentence of Kathy's story is a lie, aside from living in Ireland. I did omit more personal and off-topic parts of the conversation from these screenshots. I guess, as with anything else, we'll have to take all of this with a grain of salt, both Kathy's story and her purported sister's. But let's talk about Anthony's experiences as the next and final owner to date of Harold the Haunted Doll. Anthony bought Harold and some other haunted objects, planning to write a book about them. But Harold initially seemed to be completely dormant or not haunted. Anthony tested the doll with an EMF meter and an EVP recorder, but didn't pick up anything. He put the doll in storage, assuming it was fake, though he did place it in a box with holy water and a crucifix, thinking better safe than sorry. It was stored that way for about a year. In 2005, he took the doll out of storage and brought it to a psychic named April for a reading. During the reading, Anthony sprinkled Harold with holy water before handing the doll to April. April chuckled at the use of holy water and began the reading, but she soon told Anthony she couldn't continue because Harold had threatened to kill her. She said she had a heart murmur, and it felt as though the spirit of the doll was squeezing her heart. Anthony had recorded the session and hadn't heard Harold say anything, but when he later played the recording back, he could clearly hear agonized screams immediately after he'd sprinkled the holy water. After April chuckled and said, "You're sprinkling it with holy water," a male voice answered, "Shut up," expletive, followed by, "I'm going to kill you," expletive. After that incident, Anthony claims to have seen people injured right in front of his own eyes in the presence of the doll. He himself had had terrifying visions and an injury that required surgery. Deciding the doll was too dangerous, he put it in storage from 2005 to 2013. In 2013, Anthony saw a YouTube video about Harold, along with other famous haunted dolls Annabelle and Robert. He took Harold out of storage and went to a psychic who knew nothing about the doll. She told him Harold was happy to be out of storage. But then bad things started happening again to the people around Anthony. Anthony wrote, "Harold is pissed," and said a friend told him, "He told me that he's angry that you've had him for so long and haven't helped him." It's alleged that another friend developed a brain tumor after visiting Anthony and Harold. A number of people have claimed to have had adverse reactions after simply looking at pictures of Harold, everything from headaches to coughing up blood. Harold the Haunted Doll has appeared on an episode of Ghost Adventures and been the subject of many paranormal investigations. Anthony has written 2 books about the doll, titled Harold the Haunted Doll, The Terrifying True Story of the World's Most Sinister Doll, and Harold the Haunted Doll, The Terrifying True Story of a Child's Encounter with the Prince of Hell. Harold is believed to be haunted by 4 spirits, one of which was a man called Harold, and a 5th entity thought to be demonic. Anthony insists the demon doesn't haunt the doll, he owns it. As I mentioned before, not all haunted toys are dolls. In the UK, there's a teddy bear named Mr. Ted, who's known for growling and inflicting nausea and even amnesia on those unfortunate enough to cross his path. Mr. Ted was bought by psychic medium and former Real Housewife of Cheshire, Debbie Davies, from an antique shop in the village of Micklefield in West Yorkshire. She bought the bear along with a reportedly haunted doll named Charlotte Rose because she felt something from them, but she didn't realize that feeling would turn to fear. While the toys were in her possession, Debbie claims to have suffered headaches and nausea and seen strange shadows on her walls. She also claims to have even captured an EVP on a live stream. Her viewers would see shadows and feel sick as well. She's since deleted that evidence because she was so frightened by it. Debbie was terrified of the teddy bear's nightly growling and grunting and supernatural shenanigans. Paranormal investigators who studied the bear have claimed to leave investigations with nausea and headaches. Mr. Ted is also said to cause lights to flicker and electronic devices to malfunction. In 2017, Debbie gave permission for UK TV show This Morning to borrow Mr. Ted for the night and film an investigation to test if the teddy bear was actually haunted. It may not have been the best idea to perform the investigation in England's reputedly most haunted castle, and one of the most famously haunted castles in the world, Bolsover Castle in Derbyshire. Bolsover Castle was built over a known ancient burial site in a town previously known as the Satanic capital of Britain. It stands to reason people would be a little bit on edge there, anticipating something supernatural to take place. The TV show invited 3 young female viewers to spend the night in the castle with Mr. Ted, with the production crew and paranormal expert Joe Lockwood camped out in another room watching everything on a screen. Mr. Ted sat on a wooden chair near where the 3 young women settled in for the night. A half hour into the investigation, a ball of energy was seen next to the volunteers. Then a flickering light appeared on the screen near the seated Mr. Ted as he seemingly watched the young ladies try to get to sleep. Don't worry, I don't see it either. It should be noted that at some point earlier, a features producer named Harry suddenly became very ill and had to go to A&E, accident and emergency. He eventually made a full recovery. At 3 a.m., the producers went in to check on the volunteers. At that point, the camera in the room stopped working. It was determined that the cord had been mysteriously disconnected from the camera. Using a spirit box, the 3 volunteers shouted, "Show yourself." In response, they heard the word "leave," shouted from the spirit box. This could also be interpreted as the word "Lee," which will become relevant very soon. They then asked the spirit to come closer and received the word "no" in response. After, in their interpretation, being clearly told to leave, the terrified volunteers decided to take that advice and fled the room uninjured. I'm going to link the video of that investigation in the description. It's where all of these screenshots were taken from. I think Joe Lockwood kept it pretty professional, and the volunteers did great. After the investigation, the producers decided Mr. Ted had too much anger and too much power, and that he could have potentially harmed the volunteers during the sleepover. I'm not entirely sure what they based that assessment on, but I'm sure it makes for good TV. With his owner Debbie's permission, they buried the bear and his haunted doll companion Charlotte Rose in a secret location about 30 miles away from Debbie's house. Everyone thought that was the last they'd seen of Mr. Ted, but he was only buried for about 4 months. Rotherham-based paranormal researcher Lee Steer, who could be the Lee Mr. Ted called out to at Bolsover Castle, if interpreting the EVP that way, claims Debbie had a feeling Mr. Ted needed to go to his house, so she dug both of the seemingly possessed toys up and had Lee come and get them the same day. You may know Lee from UK paranormal TV shows like Project Reveal and Ghosts of Britain, or his publication Paranormal Magazine. Lee said strange things began happening as soon as the group picked up the teddy bear and the doll from Debbie. He claims that on the drive home, 3 out of 4 of the people in the car experienced nausea and headaches. Even before that, upon entering Debbie's house, they heard a strange, sinister noise. He said some of his companions thought it sounded like a scratching sound, but he thought it was more of a growl. While talking with Debbie and filming a short documentary about the haunted toys, they detected unusual static changes on their meters, followed by a rumble coming from the direction of the bear and doll. Upon leaving, the strange phenomena seemingly traveled with him and the toys to his own house. Lee said since these items have been here, the temperature meter has been changing rapidly, and during a live stream, some fans reported and captured a red glow on the wall, which were unsure what it could be. Paranormal? No idea. I'm still skeptical. Lee reasoned that the headaches amongst members of the group on the car journey could have been caused by fumes from the doll. It's also been noted that the teddy bear has a really bad smell. I can't help but wonder if mold is a factor here. He's also noted that the orbs seen around Mr. Ted may be the result of dust reflecting off the infrared lights on the camcorders that were used to record him. And of course, EVPs captured during the use of spirit boxes, which quickly sweep through radio channels, always leave room for skepticism. As far as I know, Mr. Ted still resides at Lee and Lindsay Steers' Haunted Objects Museum Poltergeist House in Rotherham. Of course, any reportedly haunted object can be a hoax, a joke, or a fraud. I'm constantly seeing haunted dolls for sale by people who claim to own dozens of them. They often advertise the dolls as vessels for trapped spirits and usually provide a detailed backstory. These listings always make me cringe. There are popular TikTok videos of people shopping for haunted dolls at places like Goodwill. They determine the dolls are haunted by running an EMF meter over them and seeing what lights up or sets off the meter. So these TikTokers will be at Goodwill with electrical devices literally everywhere, and they're EMF scanning dolls that are sitting on metal shelves that they're occasionally smacking the meter against. Their EMF meter's bound to react to something. Haunted doll dealers and TikTokers often prove their dolls are haunted by setting an EMF meter next to them and showing that it lights up. Most of their customers and followers probably aren't familiar with paranormal investigation equipment, but the reality is anyone can make anything appear to be haunted. Honestly, that's really easy to fake. Lots of things set off EMF meters, especially most of those that I've seen used in haunted doll videos. Those meters usually have to be moved around to get a proper reading, and are unshielded, which means they can often be set off by things like cell phones, walkie-talkies, camera battery packs, virtually any kind of electric device that occasionally gives off electromagnetic waves. They're sometimes even set off by Wi-Fi. There can be a lot of false positives, and they're very easily manipulated. In paranormal investigation, EMF meters are used in conjunction with a combination of the investigator's personal experiences and their assessment of the area being investigated, as well as various other equipment. An EMF reading isn't actually proof of anything. Not to mention, if you clearly and easily could get such detailed answers and backstories out of every spirit, like these haunted doll dealers do, don't you think there'd be a lot more clear evidence of the paranormal out there among investigators and the scientific community, and not just for TikTok? There'd be no need for investigation. Most of these pages have cropped up on social media and sales sites all at the same time, while haunted dolls have been trendy. That alone is a huge warning sign. This trend seemed to take off when the Annabelle movies became popular. These scammers are like all of the TikTok and Instagram psychics flooding my DMs, all with the same sales pitch, often with the same exact wording, and with a truly disturbing number of vulnerable people hanging on their every word. I'm just saying, it's awesome to stay open-minded, but be careful who you give your money to, and whose spiritual advice you take. Just because you believe in the paranormal or spiritual things doesn't mean you have to believe in everything you're told about. That's all I have for you today. I hope you've enjoyed this topic and will come back for more. Like, subscribe, leave a comment, and bring your friends, family, COVID pod, cult members, invisible friends, or enemies. And if you've encountered a haunted toy, I'd love to hear all about it. Thanks so much for watching.